kingdom of heaven has long since forgotten my name, and I am eager to make them remember.
Hi, I'm Wildcard. You're probably wondering how I got here. Well, time is valuable, so I'll try to be quick and summarize my previous video of Act 1. We play as V1, a robot who sort of helped destroy the Earth. God dipped after he saw what the humans were doing, plummeting heaven and hell into chaos. We enter hell and manage to make enemies with this guy, who really hates us, and also kill that guy right there. He's pretty important, but now he's just dead. And I mean dead, which is weird because we're in the afterlife. Anyway, it's complicated. We beat this guy and the Council of Heaven isn't too happy, so they rip out God's light from him, giving him 24 hours to kill us before he dies. Now, back to the video.
So concludes the life and times of King Sisyphus, a fitting end to an existence defined by futile struggle.
The layer we first enter in Act 2 is Greed. In this layer, a blazing hot sun shines down on the sinners as they are forced to move boulders up the slopes of pyramids, only for them to roll back down again. We encounter a new enemy called the Virtue, the physical manifestation of which relies upon the soul's value. We learn that heaven has a hierarchy system where greater and supreme angels rank higher than the lesser angels, and lesser angels inhibit more abstract forms compared to their human counterparts. They act as wardens for the sinners of hell and make sure they're following up on their punishment. They also lack eyes if assigned to be wardens of hell. That explains why almost every other character and enemy we face doesn't have eyes. My favorite sentence in the terminal entry is this last one, which reads, "Little is known about the specifics of angels, as heaven is exclusionary and segregated due to wanting little to no direct contact with God's human experiment." This may explain why we have very limited data as to what the angels in heaven, and more specifically the angels in the council, actually are. Moving on to the level God Damn the Sun, we find a much more decorated environment. Here you can see the Eiffel Tower, the Statue of Liberty, and the Elizabeth Tower. That's right, it's not called Big Ben. Big Ben is the actual bell inside. These structures act as reminders of human greed and our desire to always apply significant value onto greater creations instead of being happy with what we have. We encounter new variants of enemies that are coated in sand, making it impossible to collect blood or heal from them. We encounter an enemy called the Stalker, who will explode after a short time, causing any nearby enemy to be coated in sand. The Stalkers have evolved to carry the boulders as part of the punishment, and their skin has become shriveled up to withstand the high temperatures of the Greed layer. Oh yeah, Dante's Inferno also contained a similar punishment. Other than King Minos's corpse, they appear to be the only other enemy who have something resembling eyes, although these eyes appear to be eye sockets clogged with sand or gold. An unidentified sentient force has replaced the boulders with the explosives we see. The explosives have similar technology to that of the soldier, meaning, according to its log, they most likely came from the same place. It's here that we find a text. The events in the text occur soon after King Minos begins to rebuild the last layer and after God's abandonment. King Sisyphus has been keeping an army and training them for years in order to become strong enough to rise up against heaven itself. I have heard of Minos beginning a peaceful revolution, but our King Sisyphus knows such passivity will gain no favor from our cruel captors. King Sisyphus is able to accurately predict that Minos will immediately fail in trying to reason with Gabriel. How the information of God's abandonment spread throughout the layers of hell is a mystery. Let's read the closing statement. If only we knew the suffering that would befall us next. I see that attempting to overthrow heaven didn't really work out well. I am curious as to what happened, given that unlike Minos's peaceful attempt to resolve this issue, King Sisyphus's resolution was much more violent. we later summon the appropriately named Sisyphian Insurrectionists. They are quite powerful, using the boulders that serve as a punishment to attack you. According to the logs, Sisyphus began gathering the smartest of us to attack the demons that resided in greed, in preparation for his war against heaven, being patient to train them. King Sisyphus was then killed and his husk was destroyed, just like Minos's, by a group of strategic angels, leaving the insurrectionists without a commander. We now understand why the Sisyphian Insurrectionists look so torn apart. As further punishment for their rebellion, they are then forced to live with only their essential body parts being used to carry out their punishment. The blood of their enemies still stains their bodies, though will and fierce fury only serve as mental torment in knowing how close they were to freedom. King Sisyphus isn't actually in Dante's Inferno, but in Greek mythology he was the first king of Corinth. In one interpretation of his story, he is sent to Hades, where he trains up Thanatos, the god of death, to escape the afterlife. Now when Sisyphus comes back, he tells his wife not to complete the sacrifices and offerings that are made when a person dies. When Sisyphus dies once more, he tells Hades' wife, Persephone, to resurrect him and make his wife complete the proper rituals. Sisyphus comes back, doesn't return to Hades, and Thanatos, being scared of him, doesn't go anywhere near him. After he dies again, Zeus comes in and gives him the punishment of forever pushing a boulder up a hill. Perhaps his greed for continuing to cheat death and live is the reason why he's here. Also note that when Thanatos was chained up, no other person on Earth was able to die, reflecting his caring attitude towards defending the sinners of the greed layer. Now for the secret level. Going back, we can push this button, opening a small hatch. Here we grab a moon totem, which upon placing on a pillar will create an amazing starry night effect. Take a moment to enjoy the beauty of the night sky set within hell. Perhaps the sinners with the opportunity to experience this privilege firsthand are just as amazed as you are. You know, I have a good feeling about this level. Now this is a true layer of hell. I really don't know what to say. The level design is surprisingly effective at utilizing each of the game's assets. I keep dying a lot, although I managed to find a speedrunning trick if I spin and dash at the same time. Platforming segments are surprisingly hard, and I'm obviously not going to get all the crates. Oh, here comes a boulder. Better use that speedrunning trick. I keep forgetting that after every bonus level there is a series of testaments to read. This one reads, unaccountable cycles of creation wasted, unaccountable formulas for a mind without free will wasted, damned is man for failing to follow my rule, my word, my law, damned to an eternity of torture and suffering, the wailing and the gnashing of teeth. I have created hell, and now I can no longer unmake it. Yeah. God created hell and he isn't too happy about that. He knows that most of humanity is destined to follow sin instead of following his word, and it is now forever in his consciousness that he has effectively doomed most of humanity as a result of creating hell. God himself not being able to control free choice is certainly a very existential way of thinking. The level, A Shot in the Dark, requires the use of light in a labyrinth area to navigate. At the end of one hallway segment, we see Gabriel the angel with the words traitor written over him in blood. I don't actually know what this means since Gabriel was never really on the sinner's side in the first place. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Wait, here's another secret. I'm a little bit uneasy given our previous encounters. Huh? That's a skeleton of Markiplier? Wait, is that Vinesauce? I don't know who the other ones are. We can grab this dude's skull and put it on the pedestal. Okay, I don't know who that is. Well, I actually managed to find the secret after getting the rocket launcher found in the layer after Greed. It's supposed to redirect projectiles at the enemy who shot them, so hopefully if I Yep, he's dead. What's this? Within the pyramid lies a pool of clear— fuck that, I'm finishing this creepy ass level. V2 is more prepared for this fight, and even after depleting their health, they proceed to break out immediately, resulting in an awesome chase scene down the pyramid. We finally get rid of them as they clumsily fall and explode into a pool of blood, giving us the grappling hook hand. It can attach to these points to help launch us, and it can also bring enemies closer. Pretty useful. On to the next layer, Wrath.
Be not afraid, sinner. Your devotion to God shows goodness in you, plentiful indeed. The heart is willing, but the body must rest.
In Dante's Inferno, sinners were separated from those who expressed anger and those who suppressed it. Those who expressed anger outright had to fight to stay on any remnants of land, whilst those who suppressed their anger were forced to drown in their own fury in an ocean of mud and other damned souls. The first segment of Wrath, titled In the Wake of Poseidon, is a temple-style level, where 3 skulls are needed to unlock the main exit. It's near the exit where we first encounter the sentry. The sentry will dig themselves into the ground and aim powerful weapons at you. One of them is bad enough, but be careful not to be surrounded by too many of them, as it makes it near impossible to avoid getting hit. According to the log, they were built to be light, and combined with their legs, they move very fast. The legs are also sought after by scrapheads. If we redo the level, we can find a secret area, although given the previous secret levels, I really don't think that— oh my god, it's a fishing minigame. Okay, we can go here I think and catch 1 or 2 of these fish. I think the goal of this segment is to find all the fish shown above. A bum fish. Hey, this area looks suspicious given there's a crack on the wall. What if we use the bum fish to— this is really weird. I think I recognize this one. I was a bit lost, so I had to look at the log in front of me for some hints. We can apparently feed a fish into the fire, which according to the log will summon a new fish. We can also catch an eyeball. We can go out to the ocean area and catch a shark if we throw some bait. I know a secret waterfall area when I see one. Am I doing this right? We can also find 2 more fish, one in the frying pan and one in the well. Here's a message in a bottle. If you can read this, please— who cares? Oh my god, did it, I guess. Let's just get this over with. To summarize, an angel asks God why he created hell, given the amount of cruelty a human has to endure when being punished. God, being unable to find an answer and having immense guilt for his actions, casts the angel down into hell, this angel being Lucifer. God, after realizing what he had done, fell further into despair and could only cry. It's quite tragic realizing that hell itself was an irreversible mistake, and that God wanted to reset humanity to be better, but all I can think about is how we can throw a fishing rod into a pan and catch a fish stick. Okay, this level is my favorite, Waves of the Starless Sea. We start to see a closer embodiment of Dante's Inferno. Well, at least the Dante's Inferno version of Wrath, with the waves of souls trapped endlessly and forming an ocean. Although in the original text, it was not an ocean, but a river. Going inside a comfy cabin, we see an idol, an enemy which grants another enemy invincibility until it has been destroyed. A painting is also seen along with the Ferryman's diary. The writer talks about how due to the war happening on Earth, the river Styx has grown to an unfathomable ocean. Not all souls can pay, and these old hands can only take so many coins. I see. The influx of souls now means that people are forever trapped in this layer. Soon, billions of souls filled the earth, and the ferryman, not having enough time to react, fell into the ocean, crushed by masses of endless bodies. Suddenly, a voice comes to him, whose dialogue we can actually hear in the next segment.
Your devotion to God shows goodness in you, plentiful indeed. The heart is willing, but the body must rest, lest you squander one of the Lord's creations.
The passage ends with radiant as Gabriel, for he is the light in my darkness. It can be assumed that the ferryman managed to get out after being given strength by the voice of this angel. The devotion to Gabriel may explain why there is a statue of him inside one of the cabins. Placing a skull, we see a boat rise out from the ocean. Placing another skull will bring forth a platform which we can climb. Face to face with the ferryman, we fight an immense battle. Now to the terminal entries. The idols themselves go through an immensely complicated process in being created. They were created using the same process as other demons, but their shell was too small to harness a useful amount of hell energy. The idols themselves do not initially represent divine figures, but are rather carved by ferrymen on the journeys across hell's layers as a tribute to Gabriel. The idols, being close in proximity to the ferryman's cloth, allow them to absorb, through a similar compassion of wanting to protect others, the ability to make enemies invincible. Now, it's stated at the end that the ferrymen are quite lucky. Gabriel is the one to watch over hell, because had it been the council's choice, the idols would have been destroyed. Gabriel is kind of a hypocrite, considering he killed Minos for also giving other sinners a second chance. The ferrymen themselves are also considered a rare form of husk, created from powerful bodies, trained skills, and blind faith. So they were sinners. They're responsible for transporting souls, and they seem to be very intelligent for the job, given their ability to write, communicate, and create art. The holy cloth they wear is a gift from heaven, and they apparently hate their bodies so much they rip their skin off, since it is a constant reminder of their imperfections from their previous lives. The skulls carry enough energy to open gates, explaining why the use of them allows us to traverse through hell. Gabriel is the only angel to care about their efforts, and using knowledge from their lives on Earth, they have created much greater structures of transportation. I guess since humanity is dead, they can't really do anything. If we're feeling extra generous, we can give this ferryman a coin without killing him, and are then granted entrance. The Ship of Fools is a really great level where we actually enter the ferryman's ship. It's quite comfortable. I'm not too sure what the purpose of the boat is in carrying souls across layers. Do they need to travel to purgatory, to limbo, perhaps even to heaven? Anyways, it doesn't matter because my only attention is focused upon this. A giant snake-like creature roaring against the ocean appears in front of us. There's also a bar and some cabins in here, which is pretty fancy. In this area we see a hologram of Gabriel. This part of the dialogue is quite intriguing.
The heart is willing, but the body must rest, lest you squander one of the Lord's creations.
The heart is willing, but the body must rest, lest you squander one of the Lord's creations. It's unclear to me whether this is addressed to the ferrymen or to the sinners who are on the boat. It is, however, a hint as to the boat's purpose, perhaps to give souls a second chance, or maybe to hold them indefinitely. I don't know. Either way, let me know in the comments what you think. You go to this area where I believe the body of a ferryman lays. You can then unlock the rocket launcher, which on direct hit does significant amounts of damage and can also launch enemies into the air. Perhaps one of the ferrymen was smart enough to craft this complex weapon. For whatever reason, the ship crashes, quite possibly due to the giant snake creature we just saw, and we have to do a lot of jumping to move forward. Looking back, we see a terminal that's fallen over. Ow, does this mean they're alive? Nah, I'm just kidding, that couldn't possibly be the case. The final area of Wrath is covered in darkness, barely illuminated by a blue light. Looking upwards, we see a resting creature visible for only a few seconds. A creature, merged with several souls and protected by a shell, confronts us. After it's defeated, the Heresy layer is open to us. The Leviathan, in some interpretations, is the embodiment of envy, so how did that little guy manage to get in here? Well, let's read the terminal entry. So the bodies of the Sullen are souls who have given up fighting in their attempt to stay on the surface, and who have sunk to the bottom of the ocean Styx. They eventually fuse together to become this. The heart was formed when several Sullen attempted to escape their torment. Gabriel saw this and struck them down with divine spears, pinning the souls back to the creature, explaining the little forks coming out of their heads. The Leviathan was prophesied to be at the end of the world, but the world already ended, so here it remains, growing longer as more souls sink into the bottom, that is, until we destroy it. Finally, we arrive at the Heresy layer.
Machine, I know you're here. I can smell the insolent stench of your blood-stained hands. I await you down below.
In Dante's Inferno, the sinners in here are punished by being trapped into flaming tombs. Heresy is basically when you disagree with the teachings of a religious text. In the first segment, Cry for the Weeper, we get a much more traditional view of hell. We see chains, pillars of souls, and of course hot lava. Having a look at the wiki trivia page, I saw an incredibly valuable fact. This level is very red. Aesthetics of Hate is the final area of Act 2. We listen to a speech, and the most interesting part is the first few words.
Limbo, lust, all gone, with gluttony soon to follow. Your kind know nothing but hunger, purged all life on the upper layers, and yet they remain unsatiated.
Limbo, lust, all gone, with gluttony soon to follow, because we of course ended up killing everything in our path, effectively destroying the trapped souls. Anyway, we intrude on Gabriel playing an organ before the final fight begins.
And shall relish ending you here and now! Twice, beaten by an object, twice!
Upon being defeated, Gabriel questions his purpose.
Taste, is this my blood? I've never known such relief.
His realization that he does in fact have the capacity to bleed. He claims it is almost a sense of relief. Now for the epilogue, opening up to Gabriel contemplating his purpose as well as God's actions. How many did he condemn to hell, and who did it benefit? The world of the one supposed will of God was now shattered, and only he was left to put the pieces back together. The pieces never fit together to begin with. He knew words alone would never sway the masses. He chose to do something drastic. The last counselor, now backed up to a wall, scrambles for words between panicked breaths as death approaches with measured steps. We all bleed the same blood, and the cushions of your thrones have made you weak and impotent. But please, Gabriel, see reason. The council follows the will of the Father. You seek to go against our Creator? Face it, brother. God is dead. The fire is gone. You're chasing phantoms. But the Father's light. Without me, you cannot hope to reconnect with it. If you kill me, you'll be dead in a matter of hours. I know. His arm outstretched without a word, the people saw. In the silence, the message rang out to the far ends of the cosmos. That was certainly a lot to take in. I also recommend viewing the full speech itself. I mostly highlighted parts I thought were the most important to tell the story, but in short, Gabriel, upon finally questioning his purpose and accepting that God will not return, turns on the council, killing them off one by one. But what if we truly want a challenge? P2. The Weight of the World is by far the most hardest level I've played in the game. The enemies are difficult and abundant. I ended up dying at least once through one of the enemies. But yeah, you will be chased through long hallways by invincible enemies, forced into cramped areas, have to fly through the sky grappling through other enemies, go through spinning walls of red, fight combinations of demons you would have never expected, and at last, when you reach the end, we see a much more sterile and cold facility, vastly different from the rest of the Heresy layer. We press a panel and unlock a door. We are then asked if we really want to open this door. You know what? I don't think so. The Flesh Pantheon is surprisingly much easier to beat than the previous one. Here we are shown King Sisyphus himself. King Minos was fueled by vengeance as he wanted to destroy you for killing most of humanity. King Sisyphus wants to destroy you purely because he is curious about your fighting ability.
The blood of Minos stains your hands, and I must admit, I'm curious about your skills.
Holy shit. Unlike Minos, King Sisyphus dies, unafraid and unbothered.
So concludes the life and times of King Sisyphus. A fitting end to an existence defined by futile struggle. Doomed from the very start. And I don't regret a second of it.
His designation as a prime spirit is quite obvious. His resolve being so strong and his patience being so impenetrable granted him that status. In his terminal, we see that Sisyphus is a stark contrast to King Minos. Unlike Minos, who was a gentle and noble man, Sisyphus would gladly lie, cheat, or kill if that's what is needed to protect his comrades. Heaven decided to give him the bolder punishment, to show how futile his struggles would be. Now, during the uprising, we read the following. Sisyphus's charisma and drive had made his warriors dependent on his radiance and guidance. Gabriel, seeing this as an opportunity, decapitates Sisyphus and displays his head for all to see. Buddy, you gotta stop doing that. Despite knowing that he was fighting a losing battle, he still thrust his full heart and soul into battle with a wide smile on his face. Now, the closing statement is pretty sick. To him, fighting an impossible battle with full knowledge of its futility and taking joy in just the act of resistance itself is the ultimate rebellion against the oppressor. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. His blood-stained limbs are from his enemies, just like the ones we see with the Sisyphian Insurrectionists. The lack of a head is also pretty obvious as a result of Gabriel's decapitation. I wonder if one can truly achieve happiness through sheer spite and patience. The final terminal is important as well. With this new equipment, we have managed to re-establish a connection with some of the higher end machines that were left behind after the Hell Exploration and Excavation project was abruptly cancelled due to the terminals, unable to move, have grown bored. Once the connection to the surface was cut, They were getting no new input, therefore stalling all communication to repetitions of already known information. Essentially, the terminals scavenge whatever they can via their teleportation systems and trade those supplies and resources with the machines that were left behind in hell in exchange for entertainment. Well, I guess we know how some of these enemies manage to make themselves stronger. Now, this part is very important, so listen closely. The machines record the battles for survival in hell, and the footage is graded based on its entertainment value and used as points in exchange for goods and services such as new weaponry. Well, this changes everything. The point system we see in the game, the rankings we receive for each level, are all actually what V1 sees, which is a really meta way of looking at things. The terminal here also talks about how a cyber grind was developed so that machines could simulate battles in a safe environment without the threat of being destroyed. Is blood-fueled machinery basically the player simply wanting to get more points? This is a lot to think about. But is it the terminal themselves who are augmenting the husks? No. Through an ARG involving complicated methods of solving, we can find an interesting decoded message. I'll try my best to summarize the most important points. Hell is alive. It breathes, it thinks. Just by watching us, it has learned how our systems and machines work. It has not only begun to deconstruct our technology, but also reassemble it in perverse ways. Ah, I see. It's implied that hell itself is the reason why humanity was not able to close off the expeditions. This is not an attack. This is not a defense. This is entertainment. This is an exhibition of death and cruelty and suffering for its own sake. Tom, please, for the love of God, cancel this project immediately. We have to abandon everything and seal this place away. The final statement reads, I can only hope that this encrypted message is received before the organism learns to read it and intercept it. Whatever happens, we cannot let this being find a way out and spread to the surface. The final message is intercepted, presumably by hell itself. Another dies. Bring me more. I hunger. We are entering into theory territory here, but I think soon after humanity opened the gates of hell, they were not able to close it. The terminals entering a symbiotic relationship with V1 and other blood-fueled robots encouraged them to take down humanity. This explains V1's motives for entering hell. Throughout the game, we learn that anyone who enters hell and is fueled by emotion is doomed to perish regardless of their persistence. So what better way to provide unstoppable entertainment than a cold, unfeeling, emotionless robot?